Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our Lucha Underground review. Yes, the first half of the Wednesday Night Wars tonight. And what an absolutely brilliant episode of Lucha Underground. The way that they furthered certain characters, both through their actions and just through their respective narratives, and just how they built towards feuds and the trios championships. Just everything seemed so well done tonight. Everything seemed to be done with a purpose, as is par for the course with Lucha Underground. And I was just in love with this whole episode. Ashton, what'd you think of it?
Let me put it this way. I feel like there are some episodes of Lucha Underground that are like the actual TV show, and then there are some that feel more like pay-per-views. And if the March 11th, 18th, and 25th episodes of Lucha Underground were meant to be pay-per-views, I gotta tell you, man, I prefer the television show format, because this week and last week's shows were both so freaking good. And this week, I think we only had 6 sort of unique individual segments that had their own separate things going, as opposed to last week when we had something like 10 or 11. But just the quality of the segments and the quality of the matches. And I'm not even just talking like work rate and, the number of offensive maneuvers that the people are doing and something stupid like that. I'm talking like the stories being told in the matches from a match quality standpoint. Tonight was absolutely unbelievable. I mean, you had 3 different matches tonight. All 3 of them told completely different stories, and all 3 of them told their own individual stories extremely well. Plus, we had, I think, it might not even been 6, it might have only been 5 total segments tonight, because I'm only counting 2 backstage segments that both told great stories. One set something up for next week, the other set something up for later in the night tonight, and everything just flowed so perfectly. I absolutely love Lucha Underground.
Absolutely. You summed it up perfectly. So let's get right into our first segment. Heat of the night. I have 0 heats tonight. This episode was just fantastic. Ashton, what about you?
Yeah, it's another one of those things where Lucha Underground continues to do stuff where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I like that. I don't know if that'll work. It might end up being a heat of the night. And then the way that they execute it, the actual execution of the stuff that I'm weary about, completely shuts me up. Like tonight, I was going to say something about the Superfly Sexy Star match and about how at first I was like, well, maybe it would be smarter to have Sexy Star lose, because then she's this sympathetic baby face that people feel bad for, that she lost her mask, and now people are going to be judging her for her appearance, and she's a female, and there's that whole struggle, and Superfly looks like a super scumbag, and you can start pushing him as a heel. But the way they handled it was amazing and brilliant, and it got, not only did it keep those 2 amazing as baby faces and extremely over as baby faces, but it got a guy who's supposed to be a heel but gets cheered by the crowd a ton of heel heat. I love Lucha Underground. I'm going to say that way too much tonight, and it's probably going to get not only on your nerves to the listeners, but also on my own nerves, but it's just so good.
I don't blame you at all, bro. We'll get more in-depth about that matchup, because I have my own thing. I have so much to say about that match, but I'm going to hold off until we actually get to it. So with that said, let us roll right on through to our Lucha Underground review. And I do believe we get a backstage segment to open up the show, Ashton. It's in Dario Cueto's office. All seems still, and we see that he's in a meeting with Prince Puma and Conan. And Cueto pretty much laying down the law that he said, I want these trios titles to really mean something almost as much as the world title that you carry, Prince Puma, which is why he's putting Puma in the tournament. I love that. I love the idea that I want this division to be amazing. So to make it amazing, I want the best competitors participating. So, he says, look, you're going to be in the tournament. You got to find 2 partners. And next week, you're going to take on King Cuerno and 2 partners of his choosing. And then, Conan kind of has some words with them like, oh, that sounds good, whatever, and they're about to walk off. And then Cueto makes it known to Puma and Conan, who, when he told them, hey, you're also going to have a match with Cuerno tonight. Oh, also, that match is for the championship.
Yeah.
So while Puma has a chance to drown in gold if he can do well in this tournament, I mean, Cueto is still putting him in the line of fire.
Absolutely, yeah. And he even does specify that while he won't tell Puma who Drago or who Cuerno's partners are, they will be accompanying him to the ring tonight. So basically, Puma needs to get some help, and he needs to get some fast.
Absolutely. Not really much more to say about this segment. I just consistently love Dario Cueto week after week after week. If he keeps up on this trajectory, I love Stephanie McMahon to death, but Dario Cueto might become my favorite heel kind of authority figure. He's just so good. I love it.
He's just so slimy.
He is, but he's got like this charisma about him.
Did you know, John, that the guy that plays Dario Cueto was actually on an episode of Workaholics?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
We've got to watch that episode together. Or maybe we saw it already and I just didn't know it. But
I think we've seen it already, but it's one of those things where we probably watched it before we got into Lucha Underground, so we wouldn't have recognized him. And now that we know, we have to go back and check it out again.
Hell yes, we do.
Yeah.
But
it was the episode where Anders had to like hold his breath under like gross murky water for a certain amount of time to win some kind of a vehicle, I think.
I don't think I remember that one.
Well, we'll check it out another time, but that's besides the point. But regardless, Dario Cueto is an amazing character.
Absolutely, and Puma, I just love, he doesn't protest. I mean, mainly because Conan kind of speaks on his behalf, and even Conan doesn't protest that much because, like, well, at least we get a chance to win more gold and, up that success. So a very interesting dynamic going on here. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Up next, we had our first match of the night, and the only match of the night that we knew about from last week. I love the format that Lucha Underground follows, too, because every week they set up a match for the following week to keep you like, oh man, I have this to look forward to in a week. And tonight we had Son of Havoc, Ivelisse, and Angelico versus, all we knew last week was that it would be Drago's team, but we didn't know who it was. As it turns out, it's Drago, Aero, and friggin' Fenix. Talk about a stacked team. It's like a three-headed dragon.
Ashton, I know you said in the opening of our show that, like you love Lucha Underground. You're going to be saying that so much you're going to get on your own nerves. Well, I have to apologize in advance because I'm going to get on my own nerves for some of the things I say about Lucha Underground because this promotion is freaking brilliant. Because I'm going to be honest, when this match was happening, I wouldn't have made it a heat of the night. It was going to be a nitpick for me, though, that Drago and Aerostar were kind of in this tournament because I felt like that lessened the value of Dario Cueto's unique opportunity.
See, and that's the thing that Lucha Underground does to me every week is it seems like something at face value, it's like, oh, I don't know if I like this. I don't think that they're handling this the right way. It doesn't seem to make sense. And then they're like, oh, really? You think that? Well, we're going to use this in a way that does exactly what you didn't think it would be able to do.
You know what's so funny is that you'll always hear like that debate, right? Like, oh, these internet wrestling fans always thinking they know, better than the business and this and that. And yet sometimes with WWE's product, it does kind of leave me thinking like, oh yeah, I do. But with Lucha Underground, every time I just sit and just shut my mouth because they're just that good.
Yeah.
It's like, I have a problem. Oh, you did something amazing with it. Yeah, that's right. Why don't you actually let us finish next time? I'm sorry.
And the great thing is that they're actually training their fans to be patient with their storylines, which goes even further with stuff like Angela Fong and that whole thing.
Oh, absolutely. But, why I say that how they handled this opener was brilliant is, A, of course, you've got the Strange Bedfellows team, which you and I did a lot of speculation about that in the prior Underground TWitWoW. And they did so well here. I love the dynamic. I mean, stealing tags from each other, tagging each other.
Every time Angelico tagged Ivelisse, he slapped her on the butt.
Yeah, like, it was crazy. It was those little mannerisms that have kept consistent with their relationships with each other. You have Fenix, Drago, and Aerostar, who on paper should be unstoppable. And really, in the early goings of this match, they do dominate. I mean, and here's another thing, too, I want to mention before I forget, because I knew I wanted to make a point of this on TWitWoW while I'm watching it. Angelico sold his ass off tonight.
Yeah, he did.
He so much offense, and
That super kick sell, though.
That super kick cell, dude, the super kick cell, what about all the DDT cells he did?
Yeah.
Like, I'm telling you, he was, like, all over the place, and,
I'm telling you, man, I must just be drawn to guys who sell their asses off, because between freaking Ziggler and Ambrose and Tyler Breeze on NXT, like, I don't know, and Ty Dillinger, that's another one, like, Ty Dillinger, if there's any one thing about him that I think stands out compared to everyone else, it is the way he sells. So, like, it's just got to be something that I'm just naturally drawn to without realizing it, because I freaking love Angelico, and now tonight he bumped and sold his ass off.
Absolutely, completely agree with you. And again, you know, the team of Drago, Aerostar, and Fenix, they dominated in the early going. They even did this amazing, like, double team maneuver where it was like Aerostar, I think, stood on the shoulders of Fenix, did a splash, but then Fenix, I think, himself kind of
did an elbow drop.
Did an elbow drop, so yeah, kind of added to it. And they were going to get the win there, but Drago's pride got in the way. He pulls Aerostar off. He tries going for the cover. Then Aerostar pulls him off. And here's what I like about that, because I know that you have been, like, okay with their series of matches because, you know, there is that unique opportunity at the end, but I know you and I have been looking for, well, somebody to turn or somebody to be, like, more aggressive towards the other, and we got that in this match. So now I feel like I'm more invested for their fifth and final bout whenever that takes place, because they had this breakdown in this match. There was another great sequence where everybody was doing dives, and Ivelisse really wanted to do a dive, but every time it was like somebody cut her off, whether it would be Son of Havoc or Fenix or whatever, and then she finally, like, vaults over Fenix, gets on the top rope, and she does kind of like a senton over the top rope onto everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So everything's just breaking down. Son of Havoc gets a tag. It seems like he's going to be double teamed, I think, by Drago and Aerostar, because Fenix just gets taken out at one point. He's just done. But Son of Havoc is really handling himself well, gets the double springboard elbows to the two guys, but then finally the numbers advantage does catch up to him. But then it gets even better. All of this insanity, all of this kind of feud progression and character interactions, and you think, well, how can they make it even better? And they do, because Son of Havoc is going to tag Ivelisse. Ivelisse snubs him, leaves him there right at the last split second, starts walking up the stairs, and yet Son of Havoc still, despite that, is able to overcome Aerostar and Drago, hits a shooting star press, I believe, on Drago, and gets the pin.
Yep.
This was so perfect, because the whole thing was Ivelisse was holding him back, and now that he's, you know, on his own, even though it's weird saying that because this is a trios tag team title tournament, that he's going to thrive and succeed. When it came down to him, you know, needing help from Ivelisse, and Ivelisse snubbed him, he found it within himself to win the match. Ivelisse is shocked. Angelico is just like, well, that's cool.
Angelico was nowhere to be seen, man.
Like, he started to recover, and, like, the look on his face, like, I don't even think he knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And Son of Havoc, again, emerges the hero. I love that they didn't take this chance to stick it to him, but just the opposite. They continue the build, and they stay consistent with their narrative that now that he's on his own, he's going to show us all what he can really do. And because everybody knows I don't have cable when I watch things, you know, on stream, somebody in the chat mentioned, and I love this, Son of Havoc did what Pentagon Jr. couldn't do last week, and that's win the match by himself. Like, he looks like...
I think that the only really circumstances that we're talking about that are different are the people that they were going against. Because, I mean, you talk about Drago and Aerostar, they're both awesome individually, but they don't get along. Whereas on Pentagon Jr.'s end, he had to deal with three guys that they call themselves the family, you know?
Right, yeah, exactly. But just great stuff for Son of Havoc to have this kind of moment. Ivelisse is just floored. And you know what? Seeing that win, and that's another great thing about this tournament, I feel like there are a few teams that could really pull out the win in this thing. And that's just crazy. So we have the family now. We have, you know, the Strange Bedfellows, Angelico, Ivelisse, and Son of Havoc. Who's going to be the third team to have our little triple threat matchup in the finals? Kind of surprised, to be honest, that the Crew did not get in on this, but I'm sure there'll be future contenders, after the tournament.
The Crew might be next week's
team. Well, don't we already know?
Puma. Oh, yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah, so...
Well, do we know that there are only 6 teams in this, and there aren't 8?
I think there are only 6, because then the finals are supposed to be like a triple threat to keep up with that whole trios vibe.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. I wonder where the crew is.
Yeah, it made me wonder too, right? Because you'd think like the titles were made for a faction like that, but I have no doubt that they'll be immediate contenders soon after, and I'm just loving this tournament nonetheless. And I was getting ready to say, now that the crew, we know that they're not in it, I really am kind of warming up to the idea of these strange bedfellows, as we keep calling them, taking it all the way and potentially even winning those titles. I think it would be a fitting cap for this whole rise of Son of Havoc if he keeps doing this by himself. So
yeah, it would be awesome. I'd sign on.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
All right, up next, we had a backstage segment. Konnan tells Prince Puma that he's got the perfect partner for him, Hernandez, and that they just need to find another, and I quote, Vato Loco, to join them. Johnny Mundo shows up and he tells Konnan that Puma already found another Vato, and he tells Puma that Cuerno can be a real bastard and that he's got Puma's back tonight.
I love it, man. I love it. It's like I told you, I love it for 2 reasons. A, my boy Johnny Mundo goes after some gold, which is never a bad thing.
How's he going after gold? He's defending gold.
Well, I said Johnny Mundo going after gold because he's entering himself.
Oh, the trios. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
And the second thing is that he's sticking close to the world heavyweight champion.
That's what I was going to say. But yeah, the trios thing is a good point too. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so, as a Johnny Mundo mark, I am just reveling in all of this right now. So, that's great stuff. And again, it just goes back to, we know Konnan doesn't like Mundo. We know he's very favorable towards Hernandez, but as we'd see later, I don't know if Puma necessarily reciprocates those sentiments. So that in itself creates a very interesting dynamic. How are these guys all going to coexist next week, when faced with a very legitimate threat? So...
yeah, absolutely. All right. Up next, we have our second match of the night. Superfly versus Sexy Star. And Dario Cueto is not going to be content with the idea of this just being a friendly exhibition match. He sets it up so that this is a mask versus mask match because he wants the two of them to show no mercy.
They handled this
so well. Yeah.
Because the 2 things I have to say, and then I want to give you the floor. I want to know your thoughts about it. But the 2 things I have to say, A, I love that this was used really as a device to get Cueto even more heat and look even more like a slime bag. But more importantly, and this is the point I really want to emphasize, Vampiro was so clutch here.
Yes.
Say a lot about commentary. I need to go out of my way here for a few moments and just say how exceptional he was in taking what would have been the first go-to argument against this match. The idea that a mask versus mask match, it's huge. It's like the equivalent of a really bitter rivalry in WWE culminating in a Hell in a Cell or something like that. It's just that level of prestige. And, Vampiro acknowledges this. He acknowledges that Cueto, to get that heat on him, is going against thousands of years of tradition and this, that, and the other. And the one thing, and I don't know if you caught this, Ashton, but it kind of made my ears kind of prick up a little bit. Vampiro goes out of his way to say that this is bad, I don't know, karma or bad luck or whatever, and Cueto better watch himself. We know that Cueto in the past has said about certain things, the gods aren't going to be happy about this. We know Lucha Underground.
Yes.
Yeah, we know Lucha Underground has its own mythology.
Yeah, it sure does.
What if we're not even, because we're looking at the most immediate picture, it's Sexy Star, it's Superfly, and then the whole aftermath, which we'll get to in a few seconds. But in the grander scheme of things, what if this affront just doesn't stop there? What if Cueto feels the implications of his actions, of spitting in the face of just such a rich and historical tradition? I don't think it just ends with the participants. No.
I wonder if we're ever going to get to see El Dragon Azteca in Lucha Underground, or if he's just going to be sort of a background character that only really participates in the cinematic vignette style packages.
I don't know, dude. I'm starting
because when you think of like the mythology and the lore of Lucha Underground, El Dragon Azteca seems to be a pretty huge figure.
And see, I'm glad you said that because I was getting ready to say that what if El Dragon Azteca is kind of the physical embodiment of the gods of the temple or something.
Yeah.
Like, what if he's that anthropomorphic kind of figure that's just able to dole out, quote unquote, divine justice, however you want to, spin it. I mean, he saves Angela Fong, and now you have to wonder, is he watching Cueto's actions? Who is watching Cueto? And it's just the idea that Vampiro did his job, because I've said since day one when we were just reviewing all the WWE shows, the job of a commentator is to communicate things to the audience and just kind of further the narrative. Vampiro did that so well here to get Cueto his heat and to even instill in me the idea, even if they don't follow through, just the idea that he put the idea in my head, I think is a success. That, oh man, this act of defiance and just scumbaggery, if that's even a word, by Cueto, could have larger reaching mythological implications for the temple, and I love it.
Yeah. And the great thing is, with a show like Lucha Underground, it kind of lives in its own universe. So, I mean, obviously we don't believe in like freaking fire-breathing dragons or anything like that, but Drago is sort of that dragon character. Like, we know he's not actually a dragon, but, to play along, yeah, sure, he's a freaking dragon. You know what I mean? And like, we can say, well, we wonder if the gods of Lucha Underground are going to be angry at this. Even if that's not necessarily something that we believe actually exists, it's still awesome that they're kind of taking us on this ride where it's like, okay, we know you're not necessarily 100% realistically in on this, but it's entertainment, so play along. And we're along for the ride.
And that was, so well said, Ashton, because I was getting ready to say, in response to you, I love how Lucha Underground is so self-aware of what it is.
Yeah.
Because it's a wrestling product, and not only is it a wrestling product, in the grander scheme of things, it's television. And television...
To me, that's the biggest thing, dude. Lucha Underground is not a wrestling promotion. It's a television show about a wrestling promotion.
Yeah. And, with that in place, that they're going to take liberties. We're used to liberties being taken creatively in the wrestling business. I mean, my God, going back to WWE, one of their biggest and most iconic characters for the longest time was pretty much a zombie character in The Undertaker. Just this undead guy. So if Lucha Underground wants to take these liberties of saying, oh, we have gods and this and that, I'm in, man. I'm in, and I'm loving every freaking second of it, because I'm just wondering, how is Cueto going to pay?
Yeah.
Because he's going to pay sooner or later.
And that's the beautiful thing is, even though I said it's not a wrestling promotion, it's a TV show about a wrestling promotion, we still know that they're going to stick to the sort of classic wrestling tropes. And they're going to have the big bad, like horrible, evil, terrible authority figure get what's coming to him.
Absolutely. And as far as the match itself goes, I loved it, man. This was definitely, I don't know what's going to happen to Superfly in particular in the wake of all this, and I'll mention why I said that in a few moments, but this was definitely his best outing. It was a very aggressive, emotional matchup. Superfly was healing it up halfway through, because I think the implications of this match really sunk into him. Like, oh crap, if I really just don't throw friendship out the window, I could lose my mask, my honor, my very identity. And he went as far as like to literally slap Sexy Star around.
Yeah.
And I love that they did that, though, because they always say, hey, look, we're not about, boo-hoo, let's coddle our women. No, let's get them in there and show the world what they can do. Yep. And yet they did not shy away from it. Why? Because Sexy Star from day one, from her first vignette, said, I'm a strong woman, and I wear this mask, and I wrestle the way I do to empower other young women. So when you've got a guy smacking her around, it may make you uncomfortable to a degree, but I think the payoff comes when she's gonna fight back and she's gonna persevere. And I think there's something underneath it all that's very empowering about all that and inspiring about all that. I loved how this was handled.
Yeah, this was just brilliant. I love it.
I mean, just the back and forth. And
the crazy thing is, like, we basically got Superfly was a heel in this match. Like, there's no if, ands, or buts about it. He was a heel in this match, but he wasn't a heel in the sense that it was like the permanent heel turn. He was a heel because he was willing to do anything to win this match because he did not want to lose his mask. And because of that fact, because he was unwilling or because he was willing, I guess I should say, to do anything to win this match, when Sexy Star finally did beat him, it meant that much more.
Yes, absolutely. And, she does beat him when it comes, Superfly, I think just was so in his own head, he psyched himself out because he powerbombed Sexy Star at one point. And as commentary again noted, man, Vampiro was so on point in this match and really just great throughout the night. Superfly hadn't really gone for many near falls in the matchup, whereas you could see Sexy Star, at least in that regard, definitely showed a greater sense of urgency.
Yeah.
After the powerbomb, Superfly was going to follow it up with a moonsault. Sexy Star moves out of the way. She gets the Mahistral Cradle, and she gets the 3 count.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, and see, that's another great thing. I love how Lucha Underground always, implants other ideas in your head, because I'm thinking, well, is Superfly going to while out on her because he already kind of healed up in this match and beat her down? Is he going to maybe kind of fake going back to being nice and everything, and then when he's unmasked, just he'll be so enraged he clotheslines her or something? But no, he takes, the loss on the chin. He says, unmask me. He gets down on a knee, and he just pleads with her, unmask him. You could see Sexy Star. She sells the torment of the situation so well. She conveys the emotion just excellently. She finally does it. It seems like a very, warm moment, because you have no idea what this means for Superfly. You kind of get this feeling, well, is he on his way out? What's happening? And as Sexy Star's leaving, Pentagon Jr. comes from the other side. He knocks Sexy Star down.
He's a crazy bastard, isn't he?
Dude, he is unbelievable. He knocks Sexy Star off the apron. It looks like she may have hurt her ankle or something, because she wasn't really quick to get back up.
Yep.
So that'll probably be the reason why, Pentagon Jr. was able to seize his prey. That, of course,
the magic of selling.
Exactly. That, of course, being Superfly, hits him with a package pile driver, and then does the armbar submission, where he just bends the arm back, pretty much ruins Superfly there. And
kind of just like a modified Fujiwara armbar.
Yeah.
Because, it is a Fujiwara. That's what kind of armbar it is, but he also has the other arm trapped, so I don't know what else you can call that.
Right.
Maybe an arm trap Fujiwara armbar. I don't know. That sounds repetitive.
Maybe the trapping Fujiwara armbar. I'll just call it that. But
let's just call it Pentagon Jr. submission. Because...
Yeah, there you go. But he does break the arm there, and you have to imagine both having his arm broken and being unmasked. I mean, is this kind of their way of writing Superfly off permanently? Are we no longer going to see him in Lucha Underground? Could this be laying the groundwork for maybe him to come back as a new character and maybe just kind of, seek retribution down the road? And that's the thing. I feel like, and I mean this in a good way, so many things in Lucha Underground are so open-ended, I can't just readily say, oh yeah, they sent Superfly his walking papers, because I just don't know. And that's, I think, the really great part. But, yeah, Pentagon Jr. destroyed him, and Sexy Star was left seething. Those two are going to have a match down the road, and when they do, I think it's just going to get Sexy Star so much babyface sympathy, and Pentagon Jr. so much heat. I'm so glad these two are going to be facing off soon.
Dude, how crazy is it how quickly this crowd did a 180 on Pentagon Jr.?
Yeah.
Because literally last week, and the week before that, I mean, the last couple weeks, last month, he's been the most over babyface in the freaking company. And now tonight he makes this one big FU kind of move where he's getting his sacrifice whether they want him to or not. And the entire crowd is chanting culero. I think that's what it is at him, which is just Spanish for basically asshole.
Right. Just great stuff, man. And they got his heat back again at the opportune time, because that him and Sexy Star are on a collision course. That's going to be a great matchup in terms of crowd participation and everything else.
Yeah.
And, I mean, let's note again, too, because I always like to mention this sometimes. I mean, Sexy Star wins again. She's racking up those wins. I'm telling you, I feel like down the road she is going to face off for that Lucha Underground title. I don't know who the champion will be when that time comes, but they are building her up, man. She just won a mask versus mask match, for God's sakes. That's pretty big, even if it was against Superfly. So, we'll see.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So, Sexy Star moving on up in the world, can we say that?
Absolutely.
Next target, Pentagon Jr. to avenge her fallen friends.
Absolutely, yeah.
I guess friend. I don't know if she was friends with any of his other victims.
Yeah, I noticed that with Sexy Star, every big, matchup she has or something, or any, mini storyline she's in, it's always a vendetta on behalf of somebody else.
Yeah.
With Chavo, it was Blue Demon Jr.
Yep.
Then, with the crew, it was Masquerita Sagrada and Pimpinela Escarlata. And now with Pentagon Jr., it's Superfly.
Yeah. How crazy is that to think about, though? What is this woman going to be capable of when she starts fighting for herself?
Yeah, really. I mean, right now she's really kind of acting as an Avenger. But, when she starts indulging in her own self-interest, I think we're really going to see something interesting. So,
absolutely. All right, up next, our final match of the night, our main event of the evening, Prince Puma, accompanied, as we know, by Hernandez and Johnny Mundo, versus King Cuerno, accompanied by Cage and Texano.
Dude, I gotta let you talk about this match first, because I know you were absolutely in love with this main event, so what did you think of it?
Oh my god, it was so good. Okay, first of all, before I even talk about the match itself, the team of Cuerno, Cage, and Texano just seems unfair to me. It really, end the tournament now, give them the titles, because who the frick is going to beat them?
Right.
They are, Cage could take on half the roster by himself and barely break a sweat. Texano is the longest reigning AAA Grand Champion ever. And, I mean, just on a personal level, King Cuerno is my favorite luchador in Lucha Underground. So, this is my dream team, for God's sakes. And then you have them going against, the whole team isn't going against them until next week, but then next week we're going to have them going against Puma, Hernandez, and Mundo. And yeah, don't get me wrong, Puma and Mundo are solid, but Hernandez, and even the way that they've kind of built him with kind of Conan being like his advocate, he just kind of comes off as like a pretender. And I know he's a beast. I know he's this 6'5", 275-pound monster, but just sort of the way that they've built him, he sort of comes off as looks like Tarzan, fights like Jane kind of guy. Because they've kind of he's older, and Conan's he's one of Conan's old friends from back in the mid 2000s, and it's just the way that they've built Hernandez, I don't think has been great. Although I will say he looked extremely smart tonight.
He did, and I think what I like about them kind of pulling back on Hernandez for the moment is that it just makes me that much more excited for when he's going to be unleashed next week.
Yeah.
Because what is Hernandez going to do? And, what is, his relationship with Conan? Does it run deeper than, we realize? Does he have any kind of ulterior motives? Again, we know Conan doesn't like Mundo, and he's trying to groom Puma. So, and Conan, at least I believe anyway, is kind of a control freak. So I don't know even, how his influence is going to affect this team next week. And that's the great thing about this final tournament matchup is I think it makes sense, in both directions to see either team advance to the finals. So I really don't know who's going to come away with this thing. But as far as this championship match goes, this was excellent.
Dude,
yeah.
So good. I mean, I love, and this is why I think I love King Cuerno so much. His psychology in every single match is amazing. Every single match that I've ever seen him in, he is that hunter character. He embodies that character. Everything about the way he moves, his body language. I know he has a mask on, but even the facial expressions that you can see, just even his freaking repertoire seems like something that a hunter would do. He's just completely enveloped by his character. And early on, what's he isolating? The neck and legs. When you tie up a freaking bull, when you're at the rodeo, which, I mean, we know that King Cuerno has some sort of redneck aspects to him. We saw him wearing a freaking cowboy hat the other week. And when you tie up a bull at the rodeo, you tie it up by the wrists and ankles, right? Well, King Cuerno was going after the legs, and the neck was probably just to sort of set up for the thrill of the hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's isolating the two main parts that Prince Puma... First of all, the legs of Prince Puma was brilliant because Puma's finisher is a jump off the top rope. So you need your legs to do that. We've already seen in NXT when someone takes Adrian Neville's legs away from him, he really struggles to hit the red arrow. So it makes sense that you would want to do the same thing to Puma. Plus, he was softening up the neck to set up for the thrill of the hunt. At one point, we actually had a point in this match where there was a distraction from the ref. Texano tied Puma up with his bull rope by the ankles, again focusing on the legs and the ankles of Puma. and did almost like the Bret Hart figure 4 on the outside kind of thing, hanging off of Puma's legs with them tied up in the bull rope. It was awesome. And then the match did sort of have like a swing in momentum, because Puma at one point just sort of got this adrenaline rush. He hit a Superman punch and then a clothesline and then a spinning heel kick, and I was freaking out because I was like, oh, beauty shot. But then everything breaks down. Everyone's on the outside. At one point, Johnny Mundo does another one of those ridiculous double twisty side thingy cannonball move, and he lands on Texano. And then it comes down to basically it's the 4 guys. It's Cuerno, it's Puma, it is Cage and Hernandez. And Puma is actually getting ready to lose because Cuerno has him set up in the fireman's carry, getting ready to hit the thrill of the hunt. But then Cage and Hernandez both get up on the ring apron. The referee goes over and gets distracted by Cage, but it doesn't even mean anything because Puma manages to get out of the thrill of the hunt setup, and Hernandez just kind of argues with him about it. Like I think he did it like a backwards flip kick to Cuerno, almost Pele style. But then he and Hernandez almost argue because Puma's just like, no, I want to win this by myself. And he still has enough time to go up to the top and hit the 630 for the win.
Yeah, I loved this clash because Cuerno is definitely one of the top heels, one of the best heels. One of my favorite moments in this match actually was early on when there seemed to be an altercation between the two teams because Texano and Cage, they caught Puma at one point and they threw him into Cuerno, who did a neck breaker on the outside.
Oh, I love that spot. And then the great thing is, technically they didn't even attack Puma. Because they didn't punch him, they didn't kick him, they didn't attack him at all. All they did was catch him and then throw him, and it just so happens that where they threw him was met by King Cuerno for a neck breaker. It was just like a heavily assisted neck breaker. It just looked so good.
Oh, absolutely. And then to kind of build on what you were saying about the whole character and its consistencies and its little, mannerisms, when Mundo and Hernandez are arguing with Texano and Cage, you see Cuerno kind of eyeing Mundo and Hernandez and doing the throat slit.
The throat slash. But he did the throat slash on Puma's throat.
Yeah. And I thought that was great. But then at the same time, you have Prince Puma, and I love how Prince Puma has a backbone, and he's just kind of, I don't know if it's like Conan, teaching him about, again, that art of war, those mind games, because I'd be remiss if we didn't even kind of rewind this back to the entrances, because Puma comes out donning a Puma head kind of skin for his
And by the way, John, if we learned anything from Vampiro tonight, it's that we shouldn't give Conan any credit ever.
Oh, yeah, that beef is so real.
I love it because, to me, first of all, it does forward their beef, which it's been made known, and I love it. But then on top of that, it makes Puma seem so much more legit because you basically have Vampiro saying, oh, this Conan, he's a freaking joke. He doesn't actually teach people anything. He's just usurping the credit for Puma's success. And that makes Puma look like, oh, my God, what could this guy do if he had a manager that knew what he was doing?
Exactly. That's a great point, dude. I didn't even think about it in that context. But I love that from Puma, just taking the fight psychologically to King Cuerno, who, let's be honest, with this whole hunter vibe and everything, he plays head games even with his entrance. I mean, you see him come out with that deer head. Like, how do you not get psyched out a little bit? I know I would be. Yeah. So here's Puma, though, going like, well, screw you, buddy. You can do that, so can I. And he comes out with the Puma skin. And what I love
is that the way that Puma did this, what he's kind of in a way saying is that Cuerno, the deer head, represents himself, meaning Cuerno is just a deer. He's not a hunter. He's just a freaking deer. Because Puma comes out with the Puma head, and that represents him. He's the Puma. He's Prince Puma. So he comes out with the Puma head, and he's like, no, this is me, which means that, ha, 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 you're a freaking deer. Whereas when Cuerno comes out, he's like, no. I'm not the deer. I'm the one that killed the deer.
Right.
Yeah. So I love the mind games going on between the two.
And, this is a great title match. I mean, to me, I would love to see what these two could do with more of a story underneath them, because I know they kind of have one thing is that they're going to face off for the Trios Championship, but I mean just a story where it's all about vying for that championship, and Cuerno is really hunting Puma, because I think that could be some really compelling and magnificent television, and if this is just a small taste, I want more down the road. I think Cuerno is one of the best performers on the Lucha Underground roster. Yep. I think you already know how praiseworthy I am of Puma, and again, I love how they're just slowly weeding out that class of contenders. I mean, Puma successfully fended off Cage a few weeks ago. Now it's Cuerno tonight. You have to imagine, because Mundo beat Cuerno in a steel cage, that Mundo is either next in line or close to it. So, Puma's just like, all right, I welcome all comers, bring it on. And it's just making for a very compelling inaugural Lucha Underground Championship reign, from its very first champion in Prince Puma. I'm loving it.
Oh, and another thing that I love, and another thing that was almost the heat of the night that I decided to back off on based on something that they did to change my mind, the fact that Prince Puma had to defend his title against King Cuerno for what seemed like no good reason. Like it honestly, this seemed like a random match. You're giving away a championship match, and why? But then what I love is, again, it's freaking Vampiro. I'm telling you, he's the best thing going for commentary by far in this promotion. And that's not even necessarily a dig at Striker, although I at one point didn't like him. He's grown on me quite a bit, but Vampiro, man, he's just so good, because he said, it's got to piss Johnny Mundo off that King Cuerno is getting a title shot before him.
You know what? I didn't even catch that, and I'm so glad you did. Vampiro was so freaking clutch tonight.
He was so good.
Really, honestly, MVP to a degree, because commentary is a very important function, and he actually fulfilled that function to the T. So hats off to him. And yeah, this is a great main event. I think this main event, more than just about the championship, because I even just got done saying a few moments ago, I want a program between these two down the road where it is more about the title, and they really have a chance to tell a story surrounding that, and Cuerno's character, and Puma's struggle, and all that stuff. But I feel like what this match really did was create an environment for those trios tag team titles, which just make them seem like the biggest freaking deal.
Yeah.
I really care about these titles now, because when you're throwing all this star power behind them, and you're even kind of using your world title, which they still made seem important. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they lessened the value of the world title by any means.
I mean, yeah, they kept it important because the guy holding it won a match against a very legit contender.
Exactly, but at the same time, it kind of served a dual function, because that was a catapult again back into those trios tag team titles.
Yeah,
I love it.
Like I was saying, like Cuerno didn't necessarily get this title shot because he deserved it. He got it because Cueto wanted to stick it to Johnny Mundo and piss him off.
Exactly, heel being heel.
Yeah, exactly. And like if to anyone that says, oh, I don't like that they hot-shotted this match. To that, I say, well, I don't think that King Cuerno was really in the running to win the title off of Prince Puma in the first place, and the main reason they did this was to piss Johnny Mundo off, to make Cueto look like a heel, to get Cuerno over as a heel, to put over the trios titles, to make Puma look strong as a babyface. Like, so much stuff got accomplished with this match, and you're going to complain about them hot-shotting a championship match that probably wasn't even going to involve a title change in the first place.
Exactly. That was beautifully said. I have nothing more to add. If you have anything else you want to say about this championship match, other than that, I feel like we can move on.
It was beautiful. That's all I have to say. Let's move on.
All right. High spots and low shots. I know why you're laughing, and you know what? I'm going to come up with my own one. I'm not going to co-sign my low shot.
Well, you know what, John? So that you have more time to think, I'll give my low shot right off the bat.
Yeah.
The lowest of low shots, Superfly. I mean, he loses his mask, and then within minutes gets his arm just shattered into a million pieces by Pentagon Jr. I mean, he had such a roller coaster ride of emotions tonight. At first, it was, oh yeah, I get to have a nice little match with my good friend over here, Sexy Star. I hope everyone likes it. To, oh, crap, I don't want to lose my mask. I got to kill this bitch now. To, oh, God, I lost. I'm going to lose my mask. To, oh, no. Oh, I think I'm going to retire.
Oh, my God, that whole sequence. Yeah, I fully recognize that no low shot I pick is even going to match that, because Superfly just had the shittiest of shit days.
He really did. I feel so bad for him, though, which is even better because he can stay babyface.
If, he's still with the company, which, again, there's that ambiguity there, given all that's happened to him. But you know what? I'm going to say that my low shot is Drago, and just that whole team, really, but specifically Drago, because he ate the pin, and really, they could have advanced. And here's the thing, I think I actually like that I picked Drago individually, because in a way, he cost his team the match.
Yeah, because wasn't he the one that pulled Aerostar off the pin that could have won them the match?
Exactly, he initiated it. So you know what, I really like my pick of Drago.
Oh, dude, I love, and here's the thing, if this was WWE, I would say, I don't even know if they realized that they did that, but it's freaking Lucha Underground, so I'm pretty confident that they realized they did that, because they probably did it on purpose, because that is so freaking smart. That Drago was the one that prevented them from winning this match earlier, and then he literally was the direct cause of them losing, because he was the one that ate the pin to finish the match.
So yeah, when I think about it like that, I actually really like my choice as Drago as my low shot. Dude, you effed up.
He really did. That's the beautiful thing about it, though. He really did screw up. And it's just, oh, God, I love this promotion so much. Oh, my God.
So who is your high spot?
Lucha Underground is my high spot. No.
Lucha Underground.
I think my high spot has to be Son of Havoc, man. I could give it to Prince Puma, and that would make sense, but there was just so much interference in that match. I don't feel like giving my high spot to anyone involved in that match would be fair. I don't really want to give it to Sexy Star either, because even though she won and didn't lose her mask, she still got knocked on her ass, probably twisted her ankle, and couldn't save Superfly from getting his life ruined. And so, I really do. I feel like I have to give my high spot to Son of Havoc, because he single-handedly won this match for his team, and even though the other team members might not necessarily be happy about it, specifically Ivelisse, he's got to be excited that they get to move to what I imagine is going to be the finals of the Lucha Underground Trios Championship Tournament.
Here's what I'm going to do this week, because I'm just feeling so amazing after that episode. I have an honorary high spot this week.
Okay.
I gotta give it to Vampiro. I've just got recognition, because he was so clutch.
Way to be creative with it, bro. I love it.
Yeah, no, he was so clutch tonight. He furthered the stories. He turned complaints on their head that I think the normal internet wrestling fan would have. Like, you can't have a mask versus mask match. There's a history. It's tradition. And Vampiro's like, yeah, it's called getting heat there for Cueto. Yeah, you see Cueto over there? Yeah, scumbag? Yeah. And he does a great job there.
You don't like what's happening right now? Boo that guy.
Yeah, boo that guy. And then you made the catch that I didn't, where it was like, oh, Cueto, gave Cuerno a title shot to piss Mundo off. He was just so on the freaking ball with everything. I freaking love it. And it just makes me, honestly, it sounds so horrible to say, and I really don't mean to be an asshole here, but, it makes me hate WWE commentary that much more, because they could be doing this stuff, but instead they choose to plug Twitter in their freaking app. I just love that
and that's direct orders from Vince. I don't think Vince is telling them to try so freaking hard to get themselves over.
Yeah, that's another problem, too. I'm just,
I was going to say, let's talk about the Great Gazoo a little more, Moggle.
Yeah, exactly, and it's just, I'm so glad that Lucha Underground exists, where even when Striker can get a bit, out of hand sometimes with those little antics, that's still nothing compared to what we have to endure when, it's a really bad episode of Raw, and it's just such great commentary. But, so I had to give the shine to Vampiro there as an honorary high spot.
I want to know who your real high spot is.
Oh, God. You know what? My real high spot, I'm gonna do this differently, too. My real high spot's Pentagon Jr.
Yes.
Because this guy is supposed to be this vicious, heartless, malicious heel, and people were in love with him.
Yep.
And not only does he get a sacrifice, in his kayfabe sense with whatever, he's doing.
He redeemed himself from last week, because last week I think he was both of our low shots, or at least one of ours.
Yeah, so he redeems himself from last week in that sense with us. He redeems himself with his master, and then in the more, technical sense, he gets his heat back. because now people, kind of turned on him, and now he's back on track to being that ruthless guy that people should legitimately fear and loathe and just kind of think, well, what's he going to do next? And when he clashes with Sexy Star, if they pull the trigger on him breaking the arm of Sexy Star, holy crap, we might have a contender for just the top heel after that.
Yep.
I feel like he's on such a great trajectory, he has to be my high spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I thought you were going to have trouble because I thought that I took the only viable high spot, but I'll be damned. You one-upped me, and I love it.
But with that said, man, do you have any concluding remarks about tonight's episode?
No, it was just too good to even comment on. I feel like we've done an appropriate amount of praising of this show because if we talk anymore, it'll just be obnoxious.
It really will be. So with that said, guys, this has been Lucha Underground. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. What did you think of tonight's episode of Lucha Underground? Let me ask you guys this, even though we still have to get the finals in place with, the two teams next week, Mundo, Hernandez, and Puma versus Texano, Cage, and Cuerno. What do you think the finals are going to look like? And I'll even go one step further. Who do you think are going to take those trios tag team titles? Be sure to take the conversation over to Puitoff, an amazing pro wrestling group. I'm serious. Some of the most passionate wrestling fans you will ever meet. And if you don't want to talk there, be sure to take the conversation over to our TwitWoW subreddit that Ashton personally created. You know what I always say to you guys. Talk to us, talk to us, talk to us. I love hearing from you guys. You guys are awesome. And we will see you again for our NXT review, the second half of the Wednesday Night Wars. And after this episode of Lucha Underground, they pretty much just laid down the gauntlet and said, just bring it. So we'll see if NXT can. And until then, tune in and peace out.